How's it going, everyone? Thralls Metal here. I'm Necrotic Nick, and I'm doing another collection update. Been doing a lot of these lately because I'm buying a lot of shit, and I'm actually including, once again, stuff from the Metalhead box from last month, so you get a good rundown on what they gave me. So, let's start off with one of those. Serpent Saints, Leather Lucifer. I mean, it looks pretty goofy, and it kinda is. This is a Danish band. I think this is one of two releases they had. Like, there was a full-length and an EP, I believe, or a demo. There's really not much from these guys. One thing I noticed right away are the vocals are pretty bad. I'm not really into the style of singing this guy is doing. It's somewhere between King Diamond and maybe trying to do a little bit of Paul Di'Anno's vocal style. It doesn't really work. Now, musically, I think there's some merit to this stuff. I really like the new wave of British heavy metal feel on a lot of the tracks. A lot of early Iron Maiden, especially like the first three albums in particular. Really solid writing on some of that stuff. It's just that the campy vocals, and I mean, the imagery is pretty damn campy too. You'll be able to see it in the expanded artwork in the corner. It's just too much for me. Too much camp, not enough really good music, and bad vocals unfortunately really put me off of a band. But don't just take my word for it. Check it out. There'll be links below to all this music anyway, so yeah. Phobia, Generation Coward. Brand new album from Phobia out on Willowtip, and it's pretty much Phobia by the numbers. Straightforward grindcore band, short songs, actually some exceedingly short songs, like ones that are only 7 seconds or 14 seconds. This entire album doesn't even run a half an hour, so grind as fuck. I think the production is maybe a little too clean and sterile on this. I like my grindcore to sound pretty fucking dirty, and this just kind of feels sterile in the mix. And the songs aren't terribly interesting, and it's kind of difficult in grindcore. You generally try to do short, bombastic songs that are just nasty as fuck, but you have to make them interesting. They have to have some, good catchy moments in that minute and a half of just pure musical hatred. And they kind of miss on this one. I don't think it's a bad album, but I would definitely check out earlier albums by them for sure if I was going to make recommendations. Still, check it out. I mean, it's a new release, and if you love grindcore, chances are you'll find some stuff in here you'll like. Abominism. This is another one I got in the Metalhead box. This is a two-man death metal band from Pennsylvania, I believe, and this is out on Black Market Metal label, which is one that tends to pop up in the Metalhead box. Pretty good stuff. The drum machine is a pretty solid sound for a drum machine, but it's a pretty obvious one. Still, they're kind of doing a really good, like, mid-2000s behemoth in here with lots of dissonant chords, some blackened touches here and there. Very, very fucking heavy. Like, this is just blast beats, guttural vocals, even some chants on there. They really wanted to make this sound as evil as possible, and they did a pretty good job. The vocals actually kind of remind me a bit of Glenn Benton, which, I love old school DSI. That's, one of my fucking bread and butter bands. So the only thing I could really knock it on is some of the dissonant riffing is possibly overused, in spots where they could just, use a good hook or something like that, something catchy, something that's in your brain. They try to go for this noisy atmosphere, and that's cool and all, but I think they overuse it. So, just one knock on it, but all in all, pretty solid album, definitely worth checking out. And if you got this in your Metalhead box, I'm sure you already probably have some opinions on it, but I thought it was pretty good. Carnal Tomb, Rotten Remains. This is the other Carnal Tomb album I ordered along with their new one, and actually I like this one a little bit better. The production I think is a little bit better. This one definitely has more of the Swedish death metal sound mixed in with death doom as well in parts. Definitely like old school Bloodbath and Dismembered and shit like that. The song Funeral in particular has an awesome death doom feel to it. Really awesome song. Now, it has some oddities in it. The song Cycle of Horror, out of nowhere, kind of goes into this jazzy breakdown it's very strange, and it's just kind of a knee-jerk what the fuck moment. But for the most part, this is a pretty solid fucking release, and yeah, I like Carnal Tomb now. This is a band I've definitely become a fan of. They're on Memento Mori, if you're interested. Another thing I suppose I could knock it on is maybe the vocals, the cadences get a little dull. Kind of reminds me of Chris Barnes more in 6 Feet Under rather than Cannibal Corpse. But all in all, pretty solid album. Definitely worth checking out. It's solid, heavy fucking death metal, and who doesn't love that? Witch Vomit. Poison Blood. This band has a full-length release coming up soon. I definitely want to check out getting a review or a collection update for sure. But I decided to go out and get some of their older stuff, and this is fucking kick-ass. This is very punkish death metal. It's very fast. It's very fucking riff-driven. Huge autopsy vibe across it. Gritty, old-school recording. Like, this sounds like it could have been recorded in 1992. Really catchy songs. I really dug, pretty much, I dug every song on this. Definitely has that Tomb Mold vibe to it, which, if it sounds like Tomb Mold, there's a good chance I'll fucking like it. And, yeah, I'm eager to hear their full length. I have another one coming in the mail soon. I think it's coming all the way from Colombia, so it'll get here eventually. But, yeah, check out Witch Vomit. They're fucking fun. Mortiferum, Altar of Decay. This is their first EP. They also have an album coming out. I believe they're coming out on Century Media or one of the larger labels. This came out on Blood Harvest, which is a much smaller label. This is awesome death doom / death metal. This is also part of that huge Pacific Coast movement going on, much like Witch Vomit, Cerebral Rot, Ossuarium as well. Really fucking awesome. This definitely sounds more like a demo. The production on this is very raw. And it really balances the death and death doom styles back and forth. Like, these songs are fucking killer. Really fucking heavy, really oppressive sounding. Can't wait to hear their full length. This was a really good sampling into what they do. I'm definitely interested. And yeah, definitely check this shit out. It's really good. Blood Incantation, Interdimensional Extinction. I need to get more of their stuff. They have a new one, I believe, that's supposed to be coming out. I haven't heard much about it. I loved their last album, Star Spawn. It was fucking incredible. And I didn't own this one, and I had to get it. These guys are insanely good musicians. There is an amazing level of technical play on this, as well as just like an old school death metal vibe. It's somewhere between like a band like Immolation, but then death circa like human and individual thought patterns. Incredible bass work on this. This guy definitely sounds like he plays a fretless bass. It has that Steve DiGiorgio sound, much like, you know, anything that he did in Death. And I fucking love it. Like, some of this reminds me of like a weird mix of Demolition Nocturnus. Like, these guys have definitely their own approach to this. There's a cool sci-fi theme throughout this too. Really, really dig these guys. If you haven't heard Blood Incantation, definitely check these guys out. This is an amazing underground band that's out there. Just check it out. It's awesome. Deceased, Luck of the Corpse. Finally got my hands on at least a reissue of this album. This is Deceased's first album, originally came out in 1991. These guys have been one of the more noted bands, I think, out there that really kind of worked on that death thrash style. It really blended well together. And there was all these obscure kick-ass horror references throughout. This is their first album, so it's definitely a little bit rougher than some of their later material. And it's notably, I think, more focused on the death side. At least vocally, King Phallus has a much deeper register throughout. This is definitely more raw than a lot of their later releases. There's definitely more of a punk influence throughout here, too. Some of the songs get a little overly repetitious, and that kind of takes me out of the moment if it just gets too repetition. But most of these songs are absolutely killer, and this is a band I absolutely love now. I think their last album, Ghostly White, was fucking incredible. So, yeah, it's awesome to finally get a hold of their first album. Definitely a little bit different than what they're doing now, but still, this is really fucking good stuff. Check it out. Paul Di'Anno, Tales from the Beast. Kind of picked this up on a whim. It's also limited to 666 copies, which, that's fun. This is Paul Di'Anno pretty much in the studio doing different renditions of both songs from the solo career, his time in Iron Maiden, and then some interesting ones thrown in there just for fun. There is a cover of Michael Jackson's Bad on here that is really cringeworthy. It's not good at all. But on the other hand, there's also a pretty decent cover of Kashmir. Some interesting vocal choices in there. He actually goes with a much softer delivery than he's known for. He has, you know, that real raspy, awesome singing voice. I still love Paul Di'Anno's voice. An interesting cover of Ain't Talking About Love, and kind of a big miss on Megadeth's Symphony of Destruction. But the thing is, I really like when he's doing the Iron Maiden stuff. It's a good nostalgic feel, but he also still executes that stuff really well. I mean, it opens up with Wrathchild, and it's a solid version. He still definitely has the pipes for this. It's just some of the other covers he chose in here are just not great. But it's kind of a fun pickup, and you know, I love Iron Maiden. It was just something I had to get. But anyway, yeah, check it out. There'll be links. The Contortionist Our Bones EP. This band has definitely taken some turns in their style. Like, I initially got into them on their first albums, Exoplanet, and I can't think of the second one, but that one's really good too. And then they kind of shifted more towards atmospheric prog metal a bit, a lot of cynic worship, and then they kind of shifted more towards almost shoegazy stuff on the last one, The Clairvoyant, which I wasn't a fan of. This almost sounds like Deftones meets Cynic, but later Cynic, like Kindly Bent to Free Us Cynic. And I mean, it's decent, but this is a shadow of the band that I used to really like. Very commercially accessible, I think. Like this isn't too far removed from more radio-friendly bands. And while some of the screams are back, they're definitely pushed back in the mix, and it doesn't change the overall tone of the music, which is, you know, very dreamy, but once again, kind of leaning towards radio. The one thing I will say that's really positive about this is they did a really good cover of Smashing Pumpkins' 1979. It's fucking spot on. They did a really good job. It's just I'm not into this current phase of this band anymore, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'll probably get whatever they put out next just to see what they do. Maybe they take a hard fucking 180 back to their old stuff, but right now this is just kind of dull and not what I'm into. Anyway, check it out though, form your own opinion. Suicidal Angels, Years of Aggression. It's a thrash metal band from Greece. Pretty straightforward, you know, just old school thrash metal. Definitely a lot of 80s love in this. Kind of a mix of the German thrash scene and then a bit of the Bay Area together. Really good lead trade-offs. Lyrics are kind of cheesy, but music is very well written and pretty damn catchy. My only complaint would be, outside of the lyrics being cheesy, is that it's a little stiff. It's a little rigid, like it feels a little too mechanical, and you know, thrash just generally has that punkish overtones, and it's supposed to be fast and loose, and yeah, just a little stiff. But for the most part, this is a pretty solid album. If you like thrash metal, I'm pretty sure you dig it, and you got some cool Ed Repka art on there. Definitely worth checking out. It's out on Noise Art Records, and yeah, check it out. Disentomb, The Decaying Light. Brutal death metal band from Australia. This one has a little bit more depth than their previous releases. There's some atmospheric moments, some good tension building. You know, the music has some interesting melodies scattered throughout. The vocals are definitely 100% still focused on the brutal death spectrum. It's a fucking deep roar that just goes across the entire album. Now, my only complaint is some of these songs, instead of using moments to build up from one song to the next one, they really just go right into it, and it's kind of hard to distinguish even when a track has changed sometimes, because they just don't even leave much of a space. Now, there's moments later on the album where they actually have some good intro moments that really set the other songs apart, but for the most part, they're just going right into it and just beating the shit out of you. Now, that's pretty much Brutal Death 101, but I just needed like a little bit of difference between some of the tracks. Most of this album is fucking really good though, and if you're into brutal death, this is a fucking sweet act to check out. Yeah, this is their Unique Leader debut, and it's fucking pretty nasty. So yeah, check it out. Well, that knocks out another collection update. I hope you enjoyed all the stuff in here, and like I said, there are links below to all the music. If you haven't checked in the descriptions before, they all have links. But if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, and if you're new to the channel, sub. We do shit like this all the time. Catch you later.